Gnarls Brown Sr. picked up his phone and dialed 911. Not because he needed help, but because he wanted police to arrive quickly for what he was about to do next. The call wasn't made out of panic or desperation. According to charging paperwork, Brown called 911 before he even started shooting in order to get police on scene quicker. This was premeditation at its most cold-blooded. Stay tuned as we reveal everything about this case. Drop a comment and let me know what you think about this story. Welcome to our channel. Please like this video, share and subscribe to this channel to help raise awareness and spread caution. Let's begin.
We begin with more breaking news just coming into the ABC 57 newsroom in the past few minutes. A deadly shooting overnight in Mishawaka. Police confirming moments ago 45-year-old Gnarls Brown Sr. is now charged with shooting two people, including his own son. The gunfire ringing out on Division Street at about 2 a.m. this morning. Police arriving on the scene to find a man and a woman inside a vehicle, now identified as 23-year-old Asia Phillips and 23-year-old Tyreese Brown. Both of them had gunshot wounds. They were rushed to the hospital, but Asia Phillips later died. Tyreese Brown is listed in stable condition tonight. Gnarls Brown Sr. is now being charged with both murder and attempted murder.
The Brown family called Mishawaka, Indiana home, a city of approximately 50,000 residents located in St. Joseph County, just east of South Bend. Like many American families, they face their share of challenges, but nothing in their history suggested the violence that would erupt on that February night.
Well, it's a peaceful neighborhood. There's just a lot of people that likes to come around starting, but lately for the past few years, it's actually been pretty peaceful and everything. Like, there hasn't been really any bad situations.
Chip says as scary as the incident was, he hopes the community can soon change for the better.
Gnarls Brown Sr. was 45 years old, a father who should have been celebrating family milestones and watching his adult children build their own lives. His son, Tyreese Brown, was 23 years old and had found love with Asia Phillips, a young woman of the same age who would become an integral part of their family dynamic. Asia Phillips, at 23, was at an age where life's possibilities seemed endless. She had formed a relationship with Tyreese that was serious enough for her to attend family gatherings, suggesting she was viewed as more than just a casual girlfriend. The young woman had become woven into the fabric of the Brown family's social circle, attending celebrations and sharing in their important moments. The birthday party on February 26, 2025 was meant to be one of those joyful family occasions that create lasting memories. Relatives gathered at the family home in the 700 block of Division Street, a residential area that typically embodied the quiet, working-class atmosphere that characterizes much of Mishawaka. The neighborhood was the kind of place where families knew each other, where birthday parties and backyard barbecues were common, and where violent crime was an unwelcome intrusion into daily life. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere inside the Brown household began to shift. What had started as a typical family celebration, likely featuring cake, presents, and the usual mixture of family stories and gentle ribbing that characterizes such gatherings, began to take on a more tense quality. Family dynamics that had perhaps been simmering beneath the surface for some time began to emerge more openly. The specific nature of the relationship between Gnarls Brown Sr. and his son Tyreese remains somewhat unclear from public records, but the events that followed suggest there were underlying tensions that went beyond typical parent-adult-child disagreements. Investigators say the shooting stemmed from an argument at a family birthday party. This wasn't a random act of violence or a crime committed by a stranger. This was family violence in its most tragic form. Asia Phillips found herself in the middle of what was becoming an increasingly heated family dispute. As Tyrese's girlfriend, she may have felt obligated to support him, or she may have simply been an innocent bystander who became caught up in a conflict that had nothing to do with her. The tragedy is that her presence at what should have been a joyful occasion would ultimately cost her life. As the clock approached 2 a.m., the situation inside the Division Street home was reaching a critical point. The birthday celebration had devolved into something much darker, and Gnarls Brown Sr. was about to make a decision that would destroy multiple lives, including his own. The next few minutes would see this Mishawaka family torn apart in ways that no amount of time or healing could ever fully repair. according to charging paperwork. Brown called 911 before he even started shooting in order to get police on scene quicker. This single detail transforms the entire narrative from a crime of passion to something far more calculated and cold-blooded. The decision to call 911 before committing violence reveals a level of planning that contradicts any claim of temporary insanity or heat-of-the-moment action. Gnarls Brown Sr. wanted law enforcement to arrive quickly, not to prevent violence, but to ensure they would be there immediately after he carried out his plan. This suggests he understood the gravity of what he was about to do and wanted the aftermath handled swiftly. After making that chilling phone call, Brown Sr. moved with deadly purpose. He went to his closet and retrieved a semi-automatic handgun, a weapon that would prove devastatingly effective in the confined space of a family home. The choice of weapon wasn't accidental. Semi-automatic firearms are designed for rapid firing and maximum damage, suggesting that Brown Sr. intended to cause serious harm or death. The confrontation that followed was swift and brutal. Asia Phillips died from her injuries at the hospital, while the 23-year-old man, who police say is Brown's son, underwent surgery and is currently listed in stable condition. The young woman who had come to celebrate a family birthday would never see another day, while Tyreese Brown faced a desperate fight for survival that would require emergency surgery. The gunshots that rang out in the early morning hours of February 26 shattered more than just the quiet of Division Street. Police were called to the area around 2 a.m. on reports of gunshots fired and people screaming. Neighbors who had been sleeping peacefully were jolted awake by sounds that no residential community should ever have to hear. The screaming that accompanied the gunfire likely came from family members and guests who witnessed the unthinkable, a father shooting his own son and a young woman who loved him. The psychological trauma inflicted on those who witnessed this violence extends far beyond the immediate physical victims. Everyone present at that birthday party will carry the memory of those moments for the rest of their lives. When police officers arrived at the scene, they found exactly what Gnarls Brown Sr.'s preemptive 911 call had intended, a crime scene ready for immediate investigation. Upon police arrival, several parties were found. A male and female were suffering from gunshot wounds to their bodies. The responding officers encountered a situation that had been deliberately staged for their arrival. Asia Phillips' wounds proved fatal despite medical intervention. The young woman was rushed to the hospital, but the damage inflicted by the semi-automatic weapon was too severe. Her death represents not just the loss of a 23-year-old life, but the destruction of all the future possibilities that life contained: career aspirations, potential marriage to Tyreese, children she might have had, and contributions she might have made to her community. Tyreese Brown's survival came at an enormous physical and emotional cost. Police say Tyreese Brown is in stable condition after undergoing surgery. The young man who had been celebrating a family member's birthday hours earlier was now fighting for his life in a hospital operating room, a victim of violence perpetrated by his own father. Now, I want to pause here and ask you something. What do you think could drive a parent to such extreme violence against their own child and their child's partner? Have you ever seen family conflicts that made you worry about potential violence? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your perspectives help inform how we understand these tragic cases. The silver Chevrolet Impala sat on Division Street like a metal coffin. Inside, 2 young lives were spilling away, betrayed by the very man who should have been a protector. Asia Phillips slumped against the seat, a single bullet wound carving her fate. 22 years old, gone in an instant. She had only come to celebrate a birthday, but instead, she was delivered to the morgue. No hospital rush, no desperate last words, just silence. Beside her, Tyreese Brown was still breathing. Barely. 3 bullets had ripped through him, each one fired by the man who raised him, his own father. Imagine the strength it takes to cling to life after such a betrayal. Not only surviving the bullets, but surviving the knowledge that your dad tried to execute you. Paramedics fought furiously to keep him alive, rushing him into surgery where doctors waged war against his wounds. 3 bullets, 3 strikes, 3 deliberate attempts by Gnarls Brown Sr. to erase his own son. As Tyreese fought for his life in the hospital, police were closing in on the shooter, but they didn't find a man on the run. Gnarls wasn't tearing down highways or plotting an escape. Instead, They found him cowering behind a nearby house, like a coward hiding from the wreckage he created. And when detectives brought him in, there were no lies, no excuses, no desperate claims of self-defense. Gnarls Brown Sr. didn't even try to fight the truth. He confessed. This behavior is consistent with someone who had planned not just the crime itself, but also its aftermath. The fact that Brown Sr. stayed near the scene suggests several possibilities. He may have been waiting for police to arrive as intended. He may have been in shock at what he'd done, or he may have accepted that his actions would inevitably lead to his arrest. Regardless of his motivations, his presence at the scene made the police investigation straightforward in terms of identifying the perpetrator. Brown was detained at the scene and was formally charged after he was questioned by Mishawaka police. The proximity of the suspect to the crime scene eliminated the typical manhunt or extensive detective work required to locate a perpetrator. Instead, investigators could focus immediately on gathering evidence and building a comprehensive understanding of what had transpired. The murder charge in connection with Asia Phillips' death represents the most serious allegation Brown Sr. faces. In Indiana, murder charges can result in lengthy prison sentences, including life imprisonment in cases involving aggravating circumstances. The fact that the crime was premeditated, involved a firearm, and occurred during commission of another felony could all serve as factors that enhance the potential punishment.
Now to the latest details out of Mishawaka. A 45-year-old man is behind bars after police say he killed a 22-year-old woman and injured his own 23-year-old son in a shooting. Gnarls Brown Sr. has been charged with murder and attempted murder for his role in a shooting early Wednesday morning in the 700 block of Division Street.
The attempted murder charge related to the shooting of Tyreese Brown acknowledges that while the young man survived, his father's intent was clearly to kill him as well. The fact that Tyreese lived through the attack was likely due to medical intervention rather than any lack of intent on his father's part. Under Indiana law, attempted murder carries severe penalties that can approach those for completed murder. The St. Joseph County Prosecutor's Office also charged Brown Sr. with firearm enhancement. This additional charge recognizes that the use of firearm during the commission of a violent crime represents an aggravating factor that increases both the danger to victims and the potential punishment for the perpetrator. Tyreese Brown not only survived physical wounds that required surgery, but must now cope with the psychological trauma of being shot by his own father and witnessing the murder of his girlfriend. The other family members and guests who were present at the birthday party will carry the memory of that violence for the rest of their lives. The tragedy that unfolded on Division Street in Mishawaka, Indiana, serves as a stark reminder of how quickly family celebrations can transform into scenes of unthinkable violence. The case of Gnarls Brown Sr. represents more than just another entry in the criminal justice system. It's a cautionary tale about the devastating consequences when family conflicts escalate beyond all reason and when firearms become part of domestic disputes. Asia Phillips, just 23 years old, lost her life simply because she attended a birthday party with her boyfriend. Her death represents not just the loss of a young woman with her whole future ahead of her, but the destruction of all the dreams, aspirations, and contributions she might have made to the world. The randomness of her victimization, being in the wrong place when a family argument turned deadly, makes her death particularly tragic and senseless. Tyreese Brown's survival came at an enormous cost, both physical and emotional. The young man who went to celebrate a family member's birthday ended up fighting for his life in a hospital operating room, wounded by the very person who should have protected him above all others. His recovery will involve not just healing from physical injuries, but processing the psychological trauma of being shot by his own father and witnessing his girlfriend's murder. The case continues to work its way through the Indiana court system, with the shooting happened back on February 26th in the 700 block of Division Street serving as a foundation for legal proceedings that will ultimately determine Brown Sr.'s fate. While the legal process continues, the community continues to grapple with the aftermath of violence that shattered the quiet of a residential neighborhood. The premeditated nature of the crime, evidenced by Brown Sr.'s 911 call before the shooting, demonstrate a level of planning that makes this case particularly disturbing. This wasn't a moment of lost control or temporary insanity, but rather a calculated decision to destroy his own family, carried out with cold deliberation. The lessons from this tragedy extend far beyond the immediate participants. Families everywhere must examine their own dynamics and consider how conflicts can be resolved before they escalate to dangerous levels. Communities must develop better systems for identifying at-risk families and providing resources for intervention. And society as a whole must continue working to address the role that firearms play in domestic violence situations.
WSBT 22's Gabby Luma working the story from the live desk now. Gabby, you got a chance to talk with neighbors. One man telling you it was a scary scene.
Yeah, a scary situation that he's left questioning. He tells me he's lived in the area of Mishawaka for years, and this is rare. That neighbor, Joshua Chips, tells me he was up playing video games when he heard 10 shots ring out at about 2 this morning. He says he heard the first 4, then a slight pause before he heard the other 6. Chips says it's not abnormal for people in the neighborhood to carry or even shoot guns, but this is scary to think about. He adds after he heard the gunshots, he looked out his window to see a car speeding down the street. Police arrived about 5 minutes later.
They had the whole block shut down, and there was nothing but cops and ambulance, and well, I ended up seeing them bring out bodies from the house.
Mishawaka police responded to that shooting and say they found 2 victims, a female pronounced dead on the scene, the other victim taken to the hospital for treatment. 1 person was held for questioning. Chips says he's friendly with the family that lives in that house, but doesn't know them well. He adds the neighborhood is normally pretty quiet.
Well, it's a peaceful neighborhood. There's just a lot of people that likes to come around starting, but lately for the past few years, it's actually been pretty peaceful and everything. Like, there hasn't been really any bad situations.
Chip says as scary as the incident was, he hopes the community can soon change for the better.
No, I just hope the world just changes. I hope it becomes a better place for the children of the next generation. That's all I can say.
And as this is an ongoing investigation, make sure to stay with us on air and online as we continue to learn more. From the live desk, Gabby Luma, WSBT 22 News.
The Division Street shooting serves as a reminder that domestic violence can occur in any family, in any neighborhood, and at any time. The warning signs may not always be obvious, and the escalation can happen more quickly than anyone anticipates. But with awareness, resources, and community support, many such tragedies can be prevented. As we conclude this examination of a case that has forever changed multiple lives, remember that behind every true crime story are real people dealing with real consequences. Asia Phillips will never celebrate another birthday, never achieve her dreams, never have the opportunity to build the life she was planning. Tyreese Brown must somehow find a way to move forward after experiencing violence from the person who should have loved and protected him most. If this case has affected you, or if you're dealing with family conflict that concerns you, please know that resources are available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233 provides confidential support 24 hours a day, and local community organizations throughout Indiana and across the country offer assistance to families in crisis. What are your thoughts on this tragic case? How can communities better identify and prevent family violence before it escalates to deadly levels? What role should gun safety play in preventing domestic violence tragedies? I want to hear your perspectives in the comments below. Your insights help inform how we understand and potentially prevent such devastating crimes. Don't forget to subscribe to True Crime Station and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest investigations into cases that have shocked communities across America. Next week, we'll be examining another case that demonstrates how quickly ordinary situations can turn deadly and how the justice system responds to crimes that defy understanding. Until then, stay safe, look out for your neighbors, and remember that the strongest communities are those where people care enough to intervene when they see warning signs of violence.